The CDC says you're vaccinated, no more masks except in very specific circumstances and places. Should be game over for the ultra-maskers, the perma-maskers, right? Not so fast. The power grab is not over yet. You have to remember that. There are still those who have really enjoyed, not obviously the pandemic itself, but the ability of the government to control every aspect of our lives, from where we go, who we can see, how we can spend our free time, all of it. In fact, even the very air you breathe affected by the government's mandate, the government's whim, arbitrary, capricious, and often politicized as it may be. Do you think that they're just going to give all of that power back now and never think about seizing it again? I don't think so. That's why what's gone on here in the past and the continued fight in the present for freedom from pandemic panic is so absolutely essential. Let's start with where we are right now. We have Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey. Now, the governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, has said tomorrow they will abide by the CDC guidance. Why does this take time? Why not now? It's not clear. In California, Governor Gavin Newsom says June 15th. In Texas today, big win for Governor Abbott in my opinion, no more mask mandates allowed at the local level. And that's where this needs to go. No more, but in the city limits you have to wear a mask, indoors, outdoors. No, that's it. Enough is enough. The state should use its power to say, we ban masks in public. We ban masks in these situations. It is dehumanizing. It is divisive. It is a public safety issue because we need to see each other's faces when we're interacting as human beings. Know who we're dealing with. There actually are laws in the books in places already about this. Instead, what you have is this. You have people walking around with masks on all the time. It's absurd. But that's in Texas, at least. They're taking the right action. In New Jersey, which has pretty much the worst COVID record of any state in the entire country, in the state of New Jersey, the Garden State, Governor Murphy is out there telling everybody, yeah, he heard the CDC stuff, but he's not changing his mind. Not right now. Play it.
Why did you decide to go against the CDC guidance and keep the indoor mask mandates in place for fully vaccinated people?
Good to be with you, Jake. I wouldn't say necessarily against it. We're just not ready yet. We've been clobbered not once, but twice. We've lost over 26,000 people. We know the virus is more lethal indoors. And you're asking somebody who's at the hardware store working there or in a retail or a grocery store to make the judgment on who's vaccinated and who's not. We're not there yet.
No, we're actually not asking people to do that. We're just telling people to act on the honor system here and go with the guidance. No one's expecting that a hardware store owner is going to know the difference because he obviously can't or she can't know the difference. And notice that Murphy says, well, we're just not ready yet. Well, the CDC looks at all the numbers and says it's fine for vaccinated people. There's no difference in the success or in the protection of the vaccination for people who live in New Jersey from those who live in Texas. So this is politicized decision-making. Don't forget that. Speaking of which, there's Dr. Fauci out there. Now, you'll recall back in March, the great senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, who's also an MD, pushed back on Fauci, who was wearing a mask even though he was entirely vaccinated at the time. Here is how some of that went.
You've been vaccinated and you parade around in 2 masks for show.
No.
You can't get it again. There's virtually 0% chance you're going to get it, and yet you're telling people that have had the vaccine, who have immunity. You're defying everything we know about immunity by telling people to wear a mask to have been vaccinated. No. Instead, you should be saying there is no science to say we're going to have a problem from the large number of people being vaccinated. You want to get rid of vaccine hesitancy? Tell them they can quit wearing their mask after they get the vaccine. You want people to get the vaccine? Give them a reward instead of telling them that the nanny state's going to be there for 3 more years and you got to wear a mask forever. People don't want to hear it. There's no science behind it.
Well, let me just state for the record that masks are not theater.
Fauci wearing a mask actually was theater because he was vaccinated, and he was double masking, not even 1 mask, always very prominently wearing 2 masks in public as theater. Now, you're saying, Buck, how do you know that other than just applying logic and good sense to this? That's one way. Another way is that I listened to what Fauci said yesterday about why he's been wearing a mask still, even though he is vaccinated. Here's what he says.
How has it changed what you do? How has it changed your mask wearing practices?
Well, you know, George, I'm obviously careful because, I mean, I'm a physician and a healthcare provider. I am now much more comfortable in people seeing me indoors without a mask. I mean, before the CDC made the recommendation change, I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals.
I didn't want to look like I was giving mixed signals. So the appearance was what he was concerned about when he was wearing his little mask. 2 masks, actually. Not the science. So it was theater. Just to be very clear, Rand Paul was right. Fauci was wrong, as he was so many times during this. And then there's so that's the fight that's going on today. Then there's the rewriting of history that is continuing right now. Some are having to grapple with the fact that Andrew Cuomo was the Democrat pandemic hero who wasn't, not only was he not a hero, but he was probably the worst governor in America when it came to the results of his leadership during the pandemic. Yet he got a $5 million book deal to write about his pandemic leadership. That's sick, right? That's absurd. That's crazy. That's beyond anybody's wildest dreams of what he would get. But he got $5 million all in. Even Morning Joe, they figured this might be kind of an issue, but they're very gentle with it because they don't want people to realize that Morning Joe was part of the propaganda machinery of Fauci, of Cuomo, and all the rest of them. But here's what they're saying now.
We asked him in real time whenever that book came out last year, when he came on the show, why on God's earth he would write a celebratory book about your leadership while you were still right in the middle of the crisis, and it has not worked out well for him. As you said, the initial decision 2 marches ago to send patients back into nursing homes, then covering up the number of deaths that were inside those nursing homes. There's also, of course, the sexual harassment investigation in his time as governor. And yet I don't know how in good faith you could accept the $5 million for a book about your leadership in a crisis when your state, the state of New York, not all through his fault, but it's a truth, had it as bad or worse than anybody else in the country.
Almost like they're having to grapple with reality now because it has become so apparent that they look too stupid trying to run cover for Democrats like Cuomo, who were an abomination during the pandemic. Just wait till people actually see the truth about Fauci and start really understanding how often he was wrong about this.